Dans Lyon, il y a une jolie fille. Dans Lyon, il y a une jolie fille. Elle est jolie, parfaite en beauté, qu'elle a charmé. Elle a charmé le cœur d'un grenadier. Bon grenadier, amène-moi dans ta chambre. Bon grenadier, amène-moi dans ta chambre. Oui, dans ma chambre, je t'emmènerai et je te donnerai. Et je te donnerai le cœur d'un grenadier. Et l'autre amant qui est à la porte qui écoute. Et l'autre amant qui est à la porte qui écoute. Croisant ses bras, jetant la vue au ciel, se dit grand Dieu. Se dit grand Dieu que je suis malheureux. D'avoir aimé une aussi jolie fille, et à présent il faut l'abandonner. Oh oui, grand Dieu, grand Dieu. Oh oui, grand Dieu, que je suis malheureux. Pas ta chagrin, pas ta mélancolie, pas ta chagrin, pas ta mélancolie, pas ta plus loin, ne reviens plus à moi, puisque mon cœur, puisque mon cœur, puisque mon cœur, puisque mon cœur, il ne veut plus de toi.
All right. Get my trusty glasses on, and we'll be about ready to go. I'm Brian Weinstein. It's Tuesday night. It's about 8:15, and this is Divided We Stand. We'd like to have a shout out to our members on Facebook. We went over the 600 member point. I believe it was yesterday. We are now at 607. And in just a couple of months, we've gone from a few members to what we have now. So we really appreciate it, and we hope that it will continue to grow.
You appreciate.
We appreciate
what word were you trying to say there?
Again, pay no mind to the voice behind me, okay? It's this orangutan that I have as a pet, and it's in my closet here, but it keeps trying to get out. I have taught it how to speak English, so if you hear some things come out, you'll see that as kind of a positive thing, an accomplishment of sorts. But enough of my orangutan. Yes.
Orangutan?
Orangutan. That's, I guess, how it's...
A G in the dime. Oh, never mind.
I don't think it's technically orangutan. Everybody says tang, but it's orangutan. So
what? You're going to tell me now the astronauts drank tan? They drank tang, damn it.
We have the Wizard of Id behind us. Is it the id or the ego? I don't know. But it's one of those wizards, and he's always there, like the sun. But in any case, we also want to thank our folks on YouTube, Periscope, Twitch, and VK. Right, we've got quite a few platforms, and we're really proud of it. And tonight, without any further ado, I'd like to invite our guest. He refuses to give his name, but he would like to be referred to as the person who has nothing better to do on Tuesday nights and is willing to come on the show and talk. And here he is.
Hey, I know you. You're Brian Weinstein, right?
That would be the case.
And I forget. Who am I? I'm the guy at Tuesday night.
He has nothing better to do on
listen,
Tuesday
Brian,
evenings.
as you can see, I'm not normally where I am when I do this show. I'm kind of excited. What happened was tonight I was walking here in Crystal City, and all of a sudden I looked up in the sky, and there was a spaceship, right? And you don't often see a spaceship kind of flying almost in a pattern. We're one metro stop from Reagan National, so I thought maybe it was coming from Des Moines, Iowa, or I didn't know where. Anyway, so it stopped. And the guys asked me to come on for a minute. I did, and they said, "Listen, we really have a problem. We really do." They were talking a language, but I'm not going to do that because I know how they talk. But some people might, so I'm going to speak English for both sides there. So anyway, they said, "Listen, we don't understand this thing with your president." And I kind of smiled. I said, "Well, I don't understand it either." But I said, "It's funny you should ask." Actually, tonight, believe it or not, I have nothing to do on Tuesday night. So I hang out with this friend of mine, Brian Weinstein, and we just talk about the president. I said, "Would you be interested, in hearing about that?" And they said, "Sure." I can see some of them back there now. They're working. But anyway, and they said, "Listen, that sounds really cool, but we have a whole planet, and could we broadcast there?" And I said, "Well, Brian's really good with broadcasting, and I'm okay." But I said, "I don't know if we have a powerful enough signal, right, Brian, to reach there?"
Right. By the way, I believe you folks, you might see a blurry picture. It's not blurry. We are having a signal that's going back in time to 1976.
And what's happening here is that actually, so they said, "Well, look, we have this stuff. We're pretty good at this. So could we broadcast the show?" And I said, "Well, absolutely." So, Brian, I'm on the spaceship with my friends Thorgatsk and Buragin, right?
When did you make that up 3 seconds ago?
Not only is this show going out tonight on Facebook.
Sounds like you just regurgitated at a vomit burp.
Periscope, YouTube, the Russian porn channel. I mean, it's going all these places. But tonight, Brian, this show is being broadcast live to Uranus. Think about that. The show is going to Uranus tonight. That's big news.
Well, if there's anybody who would know, it would be you. So anyway,
These guys are really good. They make really good. You know what's interesting? They make. Don't ask me how they know. They make really great Ethiopian food. I have no idea why they know why that. I'll have to ask them.
all right, okay, you know, whatever rocks somebody's boat. I guess that's the way to go. If you're into Uranus, I guess that's all right. But in any case, today, Dave, I'd like to vent my anger. I may seem actually kind of happy, but I'm really not. It's actually hiding my disgust and this revolting feeling that I have just all over my body after a week of just shit news. And Dave, you and I have discussed this type of thing all week. So I want to start off, Dave, with a real horse's ass. And not a good guy. This is the senator, one of the senators from Wisconsin. It's Ron Johnson. And I'll tell you what pissed me off about him, Dave. Look, we all know he's a Republican. We all know he's going to support the president. But what bothered me the most about this son of a bitch, this horse's ass, this absolute dolt, it says, if you look at this closely, Dave, I'm going to try to focus in on this. Mm-hmm. He quote unquote says, the way you stop violence, the way you stop the rioting is a surge in manpower and resources, citizen soldiers. Now right there is where I have a big problem, because we know what happened with this Kyle Rittenhouse, this high school dropout who had nothing better to do to bring his AR-15, which I'm sure you're going to discuss, Dave. But to start the show off, when would a senator at that level, somebody's trying to be reasonable, say the way you stop rioting is through citizen soldiers? What the hell is that supposed to mean? Well, we know what it's supposed to mean.
Well, let's look at it this way, Brian. I try to simplify things, because when they get too complex, I don't understand them. So I'm going to ask you some questions. I mean, not that you'll know the answer to. So Ron Johnson is a Republican, correct?
That would be correct. Do I get 10 points for that?
No, you don't. You get 0
This
points.
is divided. We stand in jeopardy. If it's only yes and no.
Unfortunately today, with the exception of Mitt Romney, the Lincoln Project, George Bush, there's thousands of them out there, but a lot of Republicans aren't much good today. They're not worth points. If he is a Republican, and he has continually pretty much supported Donald Trump, correct?
Correct. Like all of the other senators except for Mitt Romney, right?
Right, that's correct. All right. So, and Donald Trump, for better or for worse, and of course there is no better with Donald Trump. So for worse, he's decided the way to election is to, the phrase in gambling is to double down. Well, I think he's quadrupling down, if there is such a term in gambling, on the idea of America is a violent place. It's led by Antifa, Joe Biden, and some dark forces, and we've got to control them. Okay. The problem is, some of that is true. It is being overrun right now by dark forces, and those dark forces are acting on behalf of Donald Trump and people like Ron Johnson. Now, seriously, why do you think Ron Johnson said that? He wants to get elected. Is he running this year? I don't think he is. He's not up for re-election?
That I don't know. I
don't think
ignorance.
so, no. But anyway, what happens is, for reasons that I really can't quite fathom, and I'm not joking now, I mean, I make jokes all the time, I really don't understand. Maybe the president has more power than I think, or the office of the presidency. I mean, if you think about it realistically, Donald Trump came into office with nothing, right?
Right.
He could have easily come in as a Democrat, a Republican. He has no center.
He truly only had two choices.
Everybody.
It had to be one or the other.
He's a whore. He's a charlatan. He's a witch doctor. He may be mentally ill. He's a con man. But, okay, he's president. And what I don't really get is the Republicans, all of a sudden, so many of them jumping through hoops to get to him. The best I can come up with, I've talked to a number of people on this, is that the Republicans pretty much in Congress, in the House and in the Senate, weren't so worried about facing off against Democrats in elections, but they were concerned about being outrighted. In other words, being too moderate, too liberal. And I think a number of them, I don't think they believe what they're saying, but they've thrown their lot in it. And Johnson's just another one. So does it surprise me that he would say something like that? Absolutely not. Do I think that's a winning strategy? Absolutely not. Do I know it's not a winning strategy? No, of course. But pretty much, I think if Donald Trump employs it, and I know what you're going to say later, he won. We can go, we'll go into that later. Why 2016 and 2020 are not the same. But at this point, nothing that any Donald Trump supporter says or does would surprise me. I think you're justified in your anger. I think anyone today who isn't somewhere on the scale of upset to angry to so livid, I can't even say anything. If you're not somewhere on the scale of concerned to, oh my God, the sky isn't falling, it's already fallen, I think there may be a problem with you in terms of that. So, yeah, I mean, Ron Johnson, to me, I'm going to make a prediction. Ron Johnson will not be reelected.
Let's hope
Okay, move on.
Well, right. But I do want to make a few comments about that statement. First of all, as you said, it essentially, I'm paraphrasing you, but it shows support for the president, and it's a good way to get his people out and, cheerlead behind his comment. But the idea that a senator would say that is almost as if he's giving these vigilantes a ticket to come into Kenosha. And
he is.
And what's going to happen now, because now you've got, it's, at least in my opinion, everything has been amped up. And you're going to see more protesters, probably nonviolent protesters. But on the other side, you've got these people with, AR-15s. And as we've clearly seen, they are, they're short-triggered and they have, very short fuses. They see somebody who's black or somebody takes one step, they're ready to fire. So I think that for a senator to say something like that, he's essentially saying, bring it on. I mean, isn't that essentially what he's saying by saying?
No, Brian, it's not essentially what he's saying. It's directly what he's saying. Mm-hmm. And I think, again, you've fallen victim to what many of us at some points in our lives have fallen victim to. We think that somehow only people who understand how a senator is supposed to act gets to be a senator. That's never been the case, okay? It's never been the case. It wasn't the case in the beginning, and unfortunately, it may not be the case in the end. We know it's not the case right now, okay? We don't know. Certainly the Republican Party acts like they're racist.
This is Gary, by the way.
Yeah, and Gary, you're absolutely right. They will never see it again. I know a dictatorial regime will put an end to that possibility. It's as simple as their core voters. Yeah, and Gary, you and I talk a lot of politics too. But the point is, this is the moment, okay? People go, oh, Dave, you're being overly dramatic. This is the moment, okay? We either save America by getting rid of Donald Trump, or we lose America by letting those who support Donald Trump outwork us, outvote us, whatever. We can't guarantee the outcome. None of us can. But we can guarantee we fight. We can guarantee we stand up. Look, I think we all, I know I did, I should never say we all, I'll speak for myself. I think I got a little lazy. I really do. In the 60s, I was very diligent, out there fighting and that kind of thing. And then, of course, you get a little bit older and you get a job. And I always thought, okay, I'm doing pretty good for America. I'm a reporter, right? And that's a very noble calling. And, I would work hopefully on the side of good and fight against evil and corruption. I mean, not Superman fight, but just a general fight. And then my second career was in teaching. And I said, well, I'm doing a noble thing here. I'm educating and I'm pretty good. And I never really foresaw this coming. Even in retirement, I didn't. But now I think every American who doesn't support Donald Trump, and that would be every sane American, should realize how fragile our democracy is.
Well,
It can be lost.
right. And Dave,
It can be
I've
lost
again,
in one election. It can be lost, and this is the election. If Donald Trump wins. Now, does that mean no? It means everyone is going to have to decide what they're going to do. And everything bad about America will be amped up. And you're right, Brian. He's got to amp up anyone who says Antifa. Who is that guy? I think he lives at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Or so, I don't know where he lives.
Right.
There.
Well, Dave, I
Anthony,
wanted
welcome.
to show you
Go ahead.
something here. I mean, you've probably
Sure.
seen it, and everybody out there, you might have seen it this week. I actually saw it on Sandy's show last night. But again, this is one of the events of the week that just got my blood boiling. And
Go ahead.
yes, this kind of thing happens all the time, but let's just take a peek because I want to talk
Sure.
about this with you too, Dave. So let's get this fella going here.
On your highway to hell and get out of a godly man's face. No, I will. By your very blind ignorance, you don't have the ability to even come up with your own fucking ideas. I will leave when I sue. You've not established authority to tell me to leave. You go get management. You want to cover? You find management that I can no longer.
Yeah.
You have Come on. Are you exercising your right as a private company to take away my rights?
Jesus
You
Christ.
say you can refuse service. Are you refusing my service?
Yes.
Why don't you say we refuse your service? No. I choose to yell, and you cannot stop me!
Oh, you kill it there, Brian. Just kill it.
In
Yeah.
your ignorant
Kill him.
belief that you are right. Please, in the future, respect my rights.
Okay, so you hear him say, respect my
Let's
rights. Now, what about that?
Pass.
Respect my rights.
Here's the thing, Brian. Trump doesn't understand. Yeah, orange sweatpants. That's a dead giveaway. You're either a Tennessee Volunteers fan or an asshole.
Longhorn.
Some
He's a Longhorn.
people might say they go together. So look, Brian, should that surprise us? No. Okay. Look, the majority of people supporting Donald Trump are angry. All right, they really are. Are they angry? Should they be angry? No, of course they shouldn't, because they see things being taken away. There's no war on Christmas. I'm the only person in America, I think, who really would take away their guns if I could. Everybody else wouldn't. I want to talk a little bit about guns tonight. I think it's very important. But what happens there is people have this idea, a mistaken idea about the First Amendment, freedom of speech, and rights. Everything he said there was wrong. You have a right. A business has a right to refuse service. Okay? They do. Now, are they smart if they refuse service? Depends. Would you really want to have that guy as a customer? I wouldn't, right? Why would you want him? The rule was wear a mask, come in the store. Okay? A kind of an unstated rule is wear pants, right? We don't get upset about wearing pants. What happens is people, unfortunately, I'd like to blame it on the pandemic, but I can't. They're just ignorant. They don't understand that the idea of freedom and the idea of rights involves more than just you. We can't do what we want to do all the time. And that's what these people want to do.
Right.
So are they wrong? Yes. What I think is so interesting. Did you notice how the store employee, a female, correct?
Correct.
A black female,
Correct.
correct? Did you notice
Seemingly.
how calm
Yes.
she remained? And what
He
that
didn't like
does,
that. He did not like that.
well, no, of course. When you start escalating like that, you want the other person. No shoes, no. Everybody that's putting this stuff up. So now, why does he feel he can do that? 2 words: Donald Trump. All right. Basically, whether you believe this or not, when you become a leader, You don't just lead by what you say. That's part of it, but you lead by what you do. Donald Trump believes he can do whatever the hell he wants. I'd love to know the total number of laws he's broken as president. I know of at least 7. I'm sure there are more that we don't know about. And if you're president, and notice I said your president, Donald Trump, I've said it all along, he's not my president. They said, but you live in America. I don't care. He's not my president. I don't acknowledge him. If that's the guy you follow, wouldn't that behavior follow? I mean, couldn't you see Donald Trump doing, not a tirade at Walmart because he doesn't shop there, but can't you see at Tiffany's or wherever he never shops anyway? But I mean, I could see him doing that. Listen,
Well, he has
fits.
fits. We always see his fits when he doesn't get his way. And that man didn't get his way. And that's typical of these type of people, these Trumpers. If they don't get their way, they get incensed. And we don't even know if that guy was armed or not. It didn't appear that he had any type of weapon, but there are some who would have had under that hoodie a weapon. And that's what bothers me about these people.
Absolutely.
Because they are clearly more emotional than any of the people that we have on our side. We do have our crazies on the liberal side, but not anywhere near. This is almost mainstream now, Dave. Wouldn't you agree? This behavior?
No, Brian. Now, you know,
well, you see it in Facebook posts from your friends or ex-friends.
I understand that, but do you understand why it gets so much play? How many people went to that store that day? Give me an estimate.
I don't know. At that hour, maybe 98 people at that hour, maybe a little more.
How many acted like that?
1, as far as we know.
Well, right, exactly, right? And I'm sure it would have been on.
Right.
97 people acted normal. 1 acted abnormal.
Right.
Mainstream would be 50-50 or greater. Now, I'm not taking away that he is more dangerous, right? I'm not taking that away. But I think a lot of people are falling for this now. This idea, look, I was a journalist. We do not just print the bad things because that's what we print or that's not what we show. What happens is part of the word news is new, and new is something that's not normal, and that behavior is not normal, so it makes the news. Nobody's going to film the 97 people who went in there and bought their items and came out, right?
Right.
And the problem with that is that suddenly, because we're hit with these all day, we begin to think just as you know, and I'm not saying, I mean, I think you're factually wrong, but I don't think you're emotionally wrong, right? Because it does seem to be getting, now, is it getting more? Absolutely.
Right.
But I also have a qualifying to that. How long has everybody had a video camera on them? How many years?
Well, if you go back to the iPhone in 2006 or 4 or 7, whatever that was, that's really when, we've had flip cameras. I would say 2007 or 6 would be.
All right. So again, now everybody has this. It could happen in the smallest town in America, right? Or Times Square, New York, or in front of the White House, and the play is now all equal because it's there, right? So I think we just have to be careful. I think we have to look at statistics. You see it all the time. Murder is on the rise. Well, if you look at the statistics, maybe it's not. That's all. Again, they want us to yeah, they were, Anthony. You're absolutely right. They were very bulky. But the idea is, I don't think it's a plan. I just think that, I'm going to go with what that tape showed is an idiot reflecting badly on Trump. It showed a hero. It showed a black woman, a young black woman being a hero, standing up in the face, risking it all, Brian. I think that was the point, the most valid.
I don't disagree with anything you've said, and perhaps I should have qualified it. I know that individual's behavior is not replicated everywhere by all of your friends. And I'm not just your friends, just any of the Trumpers. But that mentality, they may not go that far. But their logic is the same. They feel that they've had their rights stepped upon.
Correct.
Don't tread on me. All you had to look is that video from Bedford, Pennsylvania. I have no idea why they had to carry those arms. Why? I mean, there wasn't anything going on there.
Right now, okay, because they can. All right. Now, if we as a nation, if you got your HLS, but those cameras weren't available to every person. They were available to authorities only, right? That's a difference, okay? So yes, but that's not the same thing as any citizen having a camera. But the idea, Brian, is this.
You can make a movie with an iPhone these days.
I just did today, yes. Okay. The idea is there are a lot of lessons we've learned. Unfortunately, a lot of times they're very painful. Unfortunately, people have to die sometimes to learn those lessons. If we as a nation don't address racism, the Second Amendment, educating people to what the First Amendment means, the environment, Donald Trump has done us a service, believe it or not. Donald Trump has pointed a light on everybody who is or has the potential to be an American terrorist. And we have to deal with them in that way. We have to get rid of their guns in a legal way, or at least we have to repeal open carry. We can't take their guns. There is nothing in the Second Amendment that says you have a right to carry a weapon openly. I come back to this again and again and again because the right is fucking stupid. The myth of the West, where this came from, Tombstone is the epicenter of the myth of the West. Wyatt Earp, the shootout at OK Corral, Doc Holliday, that whole rigmarole, which is true. However, do you know what the one law was that superseded all other laws in Tombstone, Arizona? You were to check your guns when you arrived in the city limits. So it's based on myth. It's based on NRA. And this is something I want to address tonight, but it brings it up here. Where the fuck is the NRA going? Well, they were corrupt. Have you heard from them recently? In the biggest gun incidents in American history? Where are they saying anything? Because they have been put into disarray and headed toward destruction. And we have to do the same thing with the states. I don't want to hear black on black crime, white on, I don't care who it is. Nobody has the right, according to the Constitution, for open carry weapons. They do now, because states let them. But there's nothing in the Constitution that says they can. And if a state allows it, a state can also pull it away, and they should and they must.
Well said. Well said.
For your safety, for my safety, for everybody's safety. Well, and I'll debate anybody in America on gun control anywhere. And I want to finish with this point because this is something I've been fighting for years and years and years. In the first initial words of the Second Amendment, you can debate on whether it's the third word or the second word. Technically, it's the second word because if you hyphenate a word, hyphenate two words, it becomes one word. But here's how it begins. A well-regulated militia. Now, I don't know a whole lot of things, but I do know a little bit, being an English teacher and a writer, about words and their derivation. I believe, Brian, if I'm not mistaken, regulate is part of the family where regulations comes from. It says right there, it couldn't be any plainer. And yet, and there you are, a well-regulated militia. Now, the reason I didn't say militia is we can get into this whole, I think you get into that rabbit hole if we don't have militia. Forget all that. Say that. I mean, that's important. I'm not saying, just the idea of not having regulations is absurd. The other part, not to be a name dropper, not to do any of that. But I'm so fortunate living in Washington, D.C. to have an opportunity to hear these people speak. I had a chance to hear Anthony Scalia twice, Judge Scalia, who wrote the opinion in the Heller case, which the NRA uses to justify no regulations. And he, coming out of his own mouth, he said, "Of course you can have regulations. We ruled on this specific case, and this specific case was unconstitutional." And you know what, Brian? I'm not so sure he was wrong. I mean, in that point. I think if it wasn't unconstitutional, it was very silly law that DC had put in. So no, it's just we got lazy, okay? And we listen, and we don't do our research. How many of those carrying weapons that got you upset, and most all of us upset, how many of them have even read the Second Amendment? How many of them can read the Second Amendment? How many of them can read the Second Amendment and understand it? I don't know, Brian. I don't know. But you get upset with the people carrying the guns. I do too. But I get more upset with the politicians who allow them to carry the guns.
Well, I don't like guns, and there's just something about it. My father, always told me this story when he was in World War II. He had to do shore patrol, and every once in a while somebody would be, chosen to do something like that, and he didn't know, his ass from a gun. He knew nothing about it, and they gave him a gun, and he didn't know what he was doing, and he pulled the trigger, and he almost blew his head off. And he said if any closer, it would have blown his head off, and they had to go look all over town to find a bullet to replace it, because he would have been in trouble. But after that, he said, I never wanted to take target practice. I didn't want to do anything, because it's just a lot of bad things happen with guns. For all the good things you can say, there's 10 Terry Kaths for every one person who's saved.
Yeah. And for anybody who doesn't know who Terry Kath is, both Brian and I played music for a long time. We did more arguing when we played together. When Dave is alone on screen, his audio goes down. Is that true now?
No, I think he's okay now. I see. There's a different audio button for each scene that you're in, Dave. So...
Oh, that's fine. I mean, I don't care.
You're fine now. You're fine now.
I just listen to myself.
Should I put it up four times as loud to make up for the last 20 minutes with that scene?
No. Yeah, look, I used to do this talk when we could still do talks out in public, when there was such a thing. And I would carry, the place where I was giving the talk, I would carry a Bible, a computer, and a gun. Lay them on the table and say, are these good or bad things? Right? And people, they're nothing until people use them, Brian. So yes, absolutely. Bad things, terrible things can happen with guns because people use them. People make mistakes with the Bible and computers too. Certainly Mark Zuckerberg's made his share of mistakes with the computer, but of course we might go into him tonight too.
Rittenhouse, Dave. First of all, you have a high school dropout, and I don't want to cast aspersions on somebody's body or what he looks like, but if you take a look at what he was wearing, and this kid he doesn't know his ass from a hole in the ground, and this guy's got a deadly weapon on him, and then he decides he's going to travel across state lines. He's not a deputized agent, and then all of a sudden, the Republicans turn it around and say, well, as Fox says, that people are sick and tired and they have to do something about lawlessness. Well,
all right.
He was breaking the law long before anything happened, and he killed 2 people who were defenseless. I think one had a skateboard. Now, one may have had a gun, but that still doesn't give him the right to blow somebody's arm on unless he's, the guy's got his gun pointed at him and he initiated it.
First of all, Mr. Rittenhouse, and I use the Mr. advisedly, certainly fits a pattern, right? He fits a pattern of the misfit person who decides to become somebody because they have a gun in their hand. Now, I would say, not excusing, I hope that he's tried as an adult, and I hope that he never, ever, ever sees the light of day. And it wouldn't bother me if his cellmate was someone who was friends with one of the people he killed. That wouldn't bother me.
And you saw the picture
now-
of his mother. I mean, she was,
That's what I want. That's
armed to the teeth.
That's what I want to get to. Okay. If I would have any sympathy or empathy for Kyle at all, it would come from his shithole parents being raised by them. Okay. Now, I don't think there's a whole hell of a lot of mothers in America that would drive their son with a weapon across state lines to defend something that he had no business defending. But she did. You know what I don't know, Brian? If anybody out there, this would really help me. I should know. We're supposed to be the experts here, but we're not. You know what I'm still not sure is how the hell did he get back home? I don't know. I mean, I'm not being smart. I mean, I really don't know. His mom dropped him off. I mean, did his mom drop him off like you do at the movies, or did she stay? What?
Know that he went back home. Now, again, I don't know who took him home. I assume it was his mother, but I don't know that for sure.
So his mother waiting around, and what did she ask him? Son, how'd it go? Oh, it went very well, Mom.
I just blew somebody's arm off, and I killed 2 others.
Now, that's part of it. The second part I blame is the fact that apparently Kenosha is still in Wisconsin, last I knew, right?
Let's hope after tonight
correct?
it is. Trump's going there, or
I mean,
Wednesday he's
well,
going.
yeah. Apparently, not apparently, they do have an open carry law. So I blame every politician who voted for that. The blood of those 2 dead young men are dripping off their hands as surely as the blood dripped off Lady Macbeth's hands in the Shakespeare
Right.
play.
And Dave, I want to ask you this. If we go with the premise of the Republicans that, look, he was attacked, or at least he felt threatened, what if you or I, as a liberal, came there with an AR-15 or an AK-47, and we see him with a gun maybe pointing at us? Now, don't I have the right to blow his head off? See, now this is where it has a chain reaction.
Because you don't have a right to have a gun in the first place out in public. Okay, I know you do.
I get that. But I'm saying it's all okay when it is on the Republican side, but when it's on the other side, they don't want to see it.
They're tribal. Come on, they're stupid, they're ignorant, and they're tribal. All right, I'm not excusing it. Yeah, maybe had a few drinks and then walk back.
Well, this is the comment that I think is most important.
At least,
Dave, if you could address this with infinity and zero.
No. So, Brian, let's look at this.
Don't you agree?
So
they were culpable. They're giving him high fives.
All right. Let's get to... I'm laying out the blame here, Brian. You're in case. So we've got the parents. We've got Kyle. We've got the parents. Now we've got the politicians who voted for it. Now we have to move up. We've got the governor who signed it into law. All right. So we're going to move away from them for a moment. Now we're going to get to the police. Now, you can say, if there's open carry, they didn't see anything wrong. Really? From what I understand, they gave him water. Well, okay, that's good. But mightn't you question someone that young if you know that you have to be 18 to have it and say, son, are you sure you're 18? Are the policemen afraid that he's going to shoot them? Now, we're not going to go down that other rabbit hole. Police are out there. They're hired to do a job. Do your goddamn job.
Right.
Do it without killing black people. Do it without enabling white killers. Just do your fucking job. Now, the NRA, blood on their hands, right? But you want to know who it comes back to, and that's why this election is so important. Donald Trump. Why do I feel 100% safe saying that? I would say it about anyone. Did you see the picture of Kyle and his mother? Where were they? At a Donald Trump rally, near enough to the front row where you could see them in the picture. Right? Now, this is another fallacy that they've driven into us. Respect the office. Fuck the office. You respect the people that are there. if you carry that through, we should all be respecting Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler was legally elected, correct?
Correct.
All right. Donald Trump was legally elected. And we're not going to go into, look, according to what happened, he was legally elected. I haven't respected Trump in decades. Saw what he did to casinos in New Jersey. I wrote about him. No. But you're a young kid. Do I excuse him? No. Do I make him solely accountable for what he did? No. But there are many viruses right now. The one that scares all of us, or should. No, it doesn't scare them, but the pandemic. But there's a violence of racism. There's a virus of violence. These are all viruses, and they have to be addressed.
Right.
And I think it's very simple. This is the way this is the way I tell people. If you like what's going on in America today, vote for Donald Trump, because you're going to get this amped up. You used the word amp tonight. That's going to be our favorite word. What's going on now will look like we're sitting around singing Kumbaya if Donald Trump gets reelected.
Right, and that's my next point. So I do want to show a short clip, Dave.
Sure.
Please,
is Stormy Daniels in the clip? I hope tonight.
No, not at all, in fact. But I do want to show you this clip, if I can get my program working here. Okay. This clip was with, I believe, Laura Ingraham. But I just want.
Is this the interview?
Yes.
Oh, good. I want to talk about.
Let's just hope I don't have any problem with the bandwidth. It's just been real rough this week with bandwidth.
That's okay.
Let's just see what happens.
I actually have it on my computer, not but I have the transcript.
Hold on. Let me stop it for a second. I want to make sure I have it. We're okay. I just want to make sure the volume on this is up and we're off. Remind me to turn your volume back on, Dave, when we're done.
I'll try to
dream. Really, they want low income. He's a weak person. He's controlled like a puppet. So it's not going to calm things down.
Who do you think is pulling Biden's strings? Is it former Obama
people
officials?
that you've never heard of, people that are in the dark shadows, people that.
What does that mean? That sounds like conspiracy theory. Dark shadows.
No,
What is
people that you haven't heard of. They're people that are on the streets. They're people that are controlling the streets. We had somebody get on a plane from a certain city this weekend, and in the plane it was almost completely loaded with thugs wearing these dark uniforms, black uniforms with gear and this and that. They're on a plane.
Where's this?
I'll tell you sometime, but it's under investigation right now. But they came from.
No, take this shit up.
They can't hear you, Dave, just so you know.
The Republican
I'm just
National
talking to
Convention. And there
Stop
were like
it, Brian.
7 people on the
Yeah.
plane. Like this,
Because he is going to talk
and a lot
about
of
the
people were on plane to do big damage.
suburbs. I want to go to that too.
Washington.
Yeah, this was all.
We're almost
Later.
there.
Let's talk about that. You're running it too long.
All right. Okay. We'll stop there and we'll come back.
That's what I said. Yeah. That's
All
what
right.
we do.
Good enough. Okay. Hold on. Let me get you on. Okay. All right. We split that clip in half, Dave, because I know you want to go after part A first. All right.
Wow. What else do you say? Wow. Okay. Now, first of all, there was a show named Dark Shadows. If you recall, it was a daytime soap opera in the 60s. There was the actor Jonathan Freed played this sexy vampire.
Barnabas Collins.
And so, that's really Dark Shadow. Really, Donald Trump? Really? Seriously? Now, listen to what he said. Some people, 6, 7, but a person got on a plane somewhere in a certain city. What fucking city? What plane? What airline? Who was it? Look, as a reporter, you learn there's 4 simple things and 2 complex things you need to say who, what, when, where. Know who, what, when, there, right? How and why, harder to answer, but we'll just go with who, what, when, where. But trust me, they're there. Now, come on. Ingram, who, gives the same blowjobs that most of the Fox people do to the president, and right? Verbal blowjobs, not literally blowjob. But she says, "Come on." She even says, "Come on, Mr. President." That sounds like. I mean, Fox is saying, "Come on, come on, Donald," and he maintains. Now, is that because he's making it up in line? Okay, that's a possibility. Is he really crazy and believes that? Is there somebody seriously in the dark shadows that we don't know about, like a Stephen Miller or somebody filling his head with that? I was going to save it for later, but it's something I think we need to discuss tonight. This might be as good a place. There's a lot of talk about Donald Trump's mental health. But I do begin to wonder. The story, broke again sort of this week. It's an older story, but, we know now that he went to the hospital, remember, a while ago.
Walter Reed.
Right, Walter Reed. And now the New York Times. And people, you can believe the New York Times or not. I do, for the most part. There certainly can be wrong, but, they're right far more than they're wrong. And on Trump, they're not going to make too many mistakes. They know the consequences. And they said that basically Pence was told, be prepared. I'm assuming sometimes the president has been taken to the hospital. If he has to undergo anesthesia or anything, be prepared for you to assume the presidency. So if that is true, and I believe it's true, it's probably something serious. Now, I don't have a medical degree, but if you've noticed recently, there was a couple photos out of his most recent trip. He is leaning. Have you noticed that, Brian? His right side,
yes,
almost like this.
I would agree.
Okay. And that is a sign, one of the signs of a mini stroke or stroke. Now, I want to be clear. I do not want the president to die. What I want is the president to be defeated on November 3rd, leave the White House on January 21st, be indicted by grand juries in New York, and spend as much of his life in prison as he can. That's what I want.
Be nice.
So I don't want him to die at all. And I wouldn't wish it on him even if I did. However, and when I say you're speaking for any sane person, not you, Brian, do you really believe that Donald Trump would tell us if anything was wrong?
Absolutely not.
All right. Right.
He's certainly
Facebook
not going to show his taxes.
Is that Gary again? Facebook user?
Yes.
I never knew.
Yes.
Yeah, Gary. I would agree. I think when you get to be Gary and my age, Brian, you're so damn young. But we get put on some drugs and different things, right? So I'm more familiar with. Well, no, let's rephrase that. I was much more familiar with drugs in the '60s and early '70s into the '80s, but I'm familiar with legal drugs now. And
isn't Gary a couple years younger than you, or a year younger than you?
Who is
Gary? Or is he the same?
Gary and I are contemporaries. He's a year older.
Oh, really? Okay. He's older than you?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
By months, not a long
Months,
period.
okay.
But anyway, what I'm saying is I think there's a very good chance of the following having occurred. And I'm not passing on a conspiracy theory. I just said there's a very good chance, given what I believe to be true. Donald Trump is continuing to suffer, has suffered some kind of cerebral mini strokes at some point. He was taken to Walter Reed Hospital. It was serious enough at that point for them to tell Pence, be prepared. Despite his all cheeseburger diet, Trump survived.
As if that were the solution, Mike Pence.
Well, came out.
You're trading one mental incapacity for another.
That's and I wouldn't want that uncertainty now. That's why I want Trump to run in November. But what I think is frightening, and should frighten every American, is he, whether you want to believe it or not, he is a world-class liar. Now, we've lived with presidential cover-ups in the past on health. Look at Woodrow Wilson. Wilson suffered a stroke, didn't tell anybody. His wife was running the country, right?
So they say.
So, but right now, no. So, is Trump, I don't know. Does Trump even know anything's wrong with him? I don't know. What he does know, and I'm sure he knows this. Once he leaves that White House, two things are gone. His power is gone, and his protection is gone. And that's one of the reasons.
Right, and you would
people
think
ego,
Fox will
like,
just
it's
give
part
up
of
on
it.
him completely.
But that's why he's fighting so desperately.
Dave, I did
However-
want to show the second part because I think
Oh,
it
yeah,
was
go ahead, but
this
I
part
think
was
that
even
picture
more
is
important. I want to make sure the volume's
as the
there.
ramblings of either somebody who is crazy or somebody who is mentally disturbed.
Right. All right, let's see how this works. I want to make sure you can hear a little bit of echo for a second, but then we'll be okay.
Yeah.
All right, this should work, Dave.
Okay.
Are the suburbs in danger? Because they say that's fear mongering on the part of
I know the
Republicans.
suburbs. Look, Westchester was
Suburbs.
ground zero, okay, for what they were trying to do. They were trying to destroy the suburban, beautiful place, the American dream, really. They want low-income housing, and with that comes a lot of other problems, including crime. May not be
You're
nice
not
to
saying
say,
all
but
poor
I'll
people
say
are
it.
criminals, though.
No, I'm not saying that at all, but it does.
Yeah, yeah.
There is
Yes,
a
you are.
level of violence that you don't see.
The important part's coming up, Dave.
Okay.
It's more dangerous to be a police officer today, do you not think, than it has been in
The
a long
police
time?
are under siege because of things. They can do 10,000 great acts, which is what they do, and one bad apple or a choker. You know, a choker. They choke. Shooting
mean
the guy,
they
shooting the
panic?
guy in the back many times. I mean, couldn't you have done something different? Couldn't you have wrestled? You know, I mean, in the meantime, he might have been going for a weapon, and you know, there's a whole big thing there. But they choke, just like in a golf tournament. They miss a 3-foot.
Stop
You're not
there,
comparing it to
Brian,
golf,
no
because of course
more.
that's what the media.
Okay, hold on, because I do want to add
People
something to
People
this.
People
People
panic.
choke.
Okay, Dave, let me put us back on. Hold on.
Sure.
Okay, it actually did not put on what I wanted to discuss, and I want to say this very quickly.
I want to discuss that first.
Okay, well that's fine, but I want to get this off my chest because he mentioned something about women not being protected in the suburbs. Germany before their invasion of Poland during before World War II had these propaganda films, I believe, something about Poles were raping their women. And I thought that was the kind of direction that he was going, just with that. I mean, he just very, very on the very surface went over that, but it was that type of thinking, and he held back. And then, of course, you heard all the other things. Now, I don't even have to continue with this because that's basically what he said. But I want you to comment about this analogy between
All right, look.
golf and what the 7 bullets were.
Yeah, well, here we go. It's fairly simple. All right, in Trump's world, I mean, it's a little scary. I don't know if you ever saw the movie Manhunter. It was by Michael Mann, who did Miami Vice. Brilliant movie. In fact, people who really understand Thomas Harris's book, The Silence of the Lambs, and Hannibal Lecter say it was much better than the film, that won the Academy Award, Silence of the Lambs. It was kind of the same story. But the thing that was so fascinating to me in that story is that the detective, well, he wasn't a detective, he was an FBI guy, but he could actually, he was a profiler, trying to get inside these minds. So I try not to get inside Donald Trump's mind too much because I think it's a scary place and I wouldn't want to get trapped there. But if I were inside his mind, I think it does show how his mind works. Brian, again, a series of questions, not to you, but just to help maybe people out there understand. What seems to be Donald Trump's main release or passion? What has he done more than anything else as president?
Well, I mean, look, I'm sure I'm not giving you the right answer, but
Go ahead.
I wouldn't call him a passion. His addiction, number one, is lying.
No, I got that. But I'm talking about, okay, what a person does for relaxation or relief. What activity?
Oh, and it's funny that he accused Obama of golfing a certain number of hours, and
So because he's such a narcissist, and he has such a limited scope of reference, it doesn't surprise me. that he would equate a mistake made anywhere with missing a putt. What he misses by doing that is, again, he demonstrates his lack of empathy, his lack of understanding. It's beyond acceptable. So what he's saying, and he doesn't even realize it, and I'm not excusing him. I'm just saying he's saying that when I miss a 3-inch putt, because I choked. Of course, he would never say he did. So he said when someone else does it, it's the same as an officer choking and firing 7 shots and paralyzing someone for life. No, Donald. No, Donald. No, Donald. Okay. So do we get angry at it? No, we just vote the fucker out. So do I think there's anything surprising there? No. Is there anything he could do that would shock me? No. Is there any lack of humanity he's left to show? No. You said lying, of course. I mean, he does. Look, I would challenge anyone in America, and people, if you're listening tonight, if you can find somebody out there that you know who is a Trump supporter who'd be willing to come on this show, I just want to ask him one question. Show me with some consistency where Donald Trump, as president of the United States, has demonstrated any admirable human trait. Was it when he didn't carry or didn't let Melania under the umbrella? Was it just then when he just cavalierly said, well, like shooting someone 7 times, that's like kind
Butts
of
to
like,
the front of the line of the
miss
G7 or whatever it was.
whatever. Okay. Now, here's the message, and we're definitely the wrong audience, but I do deliver this as much as I can. If you support today Donald Trump, you are more dangerous than any foreign terrorist anywhere in the world to America. It's that simple.
Giving him the license.
It's just that simple. And people say, I don't keep track of numbers much, but I wanted to keep track of this. Brian, you know the area, well, I come from there, and you now live there. It's a relatively conservative area, right? Yeah, he loves his daughter in inhuman ways, okay? If he really loved his daughter, yeah, I love, could you imagine? Hot, oh, get her, oh, with my little mushroom thingy? I don't think so, okay? What we have, though, in that area, and obviously when you live there, I had a lot of friends. And so I started out, and I wanted to keep a total. And I did. I began with 71 Facebook friends who voted for Donald Trump. Okay? After, 3.5 years of attacking them and, poking fun at them, and, some of them left, which I wanted them to do, some of them stayed. Then I, finally said, okay, enough's enough. We'll just start throwing them off. But anyway, my point is some of them would ask me, why are you so filled with hate toward Donald Trump? And I would smile and say, wrong question. The question is, why aren't you filled with hate toward Donald Trump? And then it got to a point where they said, well, don't you feel bad about that hate? And I said, I do. Because I hate, does that mean you hate me? I said, yeah, I do. Because I didn't tell you earlier that I really do hate you. Now, do I hate them? No. They're non-existent people to me. Look, I know that we're social beings. I'm not an outsider. I like to have friends. I like to have family. I like all that too. But I think there are certain things that even supersede those bonds. And I think morality is one of those. I talked earlier, Brian, about the idea of respecting the office. I believe that all things being equal, you should respect your parents, right? Because without your parents, you're not here. But what if your parents are abusive?
Right. There's that line,
And there's always a line, right?
Right.
And so do these people, and again, I don't. I'm not atypical. I can remember arguing with my father, as sons and fathers have done since the days of the beginnings of time, when we first emerged from the caves or the sea or wherever we came from. But the older you get, the more you see your dad, your mom. They were kind of right. And my dad was a Texican, so he always had all these sayings. Kind of. He said, boy, you are who you hang with. And I didn't like that, because what he was kind of implying was, maybe I wasn't hanging with the people he, kind of wanted me to hang with, and kind of like not the way the guy in the store did it tonight, but kind of way my dad. I kind of got my, but he was right. So if you are a person and you tell me you support Donald Trump at this stage of his presidency, I know all I need to know about you. So when my brother-in-law does it, that's on him. When Judy's stepbrothers do it, family, that's on them. When my friends, former friends do it, if you played music as long as I did, you played with a lot of conservatives. I don't think I could be in a band in South Jersey now. So many fucking conservatives. And when I say conservatives, I did that wrong. I apologize. I made a mistake. I misspoke. I misspoke. Conservatives aren't backing Donald Trump. Republicans aren't backing Donald Trump. Members of the Donald Trump cult who believe in Trumpism are backing Donald Trump. So I did not mean to insult or imply that to conservatives. Conservatives, I have great ideological differences. I consider myself a liberal first. I do not consider myself a member of the Democratic Party, although I end up voting Democratic 99.9% of the time because they're the more liberal candidates and party. But I don't believe in joining a party just because I don't. I think it's just like, I think there are people who joined the Republican Party and now regret it because they gave him Donald Trump.
Dave, I'm going to interject there.
Sure.
You mentioned it's a cult of personality, all that kind of thinking. Right. But I've always seen types of Republicans who just absolutely despise people like us. And I'm just wondering, perhaps it's also more that they really do hate us and think that we're wrong. But Trump has given them the conduit to express themselves.
Okay.
I mean, here we're splitting hairs. But there's no doubt that these people, you said they're racist?
On the money there.
Right.
I think, look, I was thinking about this because we were having a discussion earlier, if you remember this week, about you were a little upset about feeling the way you were. Remember, like, I don't like this rage, feeling. I said,
right. I don't like having rage.
No, I said, and I believe this. So let's go to a president who is America's greatest ex-president, and that would be Jimmy Carter. No question, he's our greatest ex-president. But when he was running for president, famous interview. I don't know if you recall it, Brian, because like I say, you're so young. He. Which is kind of weird because he is a true Christian. There's no question in his mind. And there are true Christians. There's no question in my mind. And he said he felt that when he looked at other women and felt a certain way, he had lust in his heart, and that was a sin. And while I respect Mr. Carter, I would submit to him that was fallacious thinking in this respect. I don't know that we can control our feelings or our thoughts. I think sometimes they're spontaneous. What we can control are our actions, right? So I think that's a problem that we have with Donald Trump. He doesn't, what's the word I'm looking for? It's one of those fancy words they threw out as an education. I wish they wouldn't do that. I wish they just talk about metacognition, the science of thinking about what you're thinking, that
right.
kind of thing. But I mean, Donald Trump doesn't do that. And I think I'm going to simplify it. I think it's just reflective, So, if you just believe, which Donald Trump does or is incapable of not, the firstlings of my thoughts will be the firstlings of what I say and will be the first things I do. Kyle did that, right? There was a cute thing, I think Tamara, no, somebody posted today on Divided We Stand. And it was a College Humor thing, and it was two, white guys, obviously, playing the parts of gun nuts, and a black guy came on armed. And it was really funny. And I mean, I think that's part of it. When you say, this is why I want to get to what you said, when they hate us. Yeah, okay, fine. But I'm okay with people hating me if I'm convinced I'm on the right side. Do I really want them to like me? Look, they believe ignorance is good. I do not. They believe minorities are bad. I do not. They believe that America is a Christian country and should be governed by Christian beliefs. I do not. They believe that you can walk into a Walmart without a mask, and I do. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. Again, something my daddy said, it's going to be my daddy's night, but I've been thinking a lot about my daddy recently. Not only did he say you are who you hang with, he said, basically, and he was not a religious man. In fact, I wish sometimes, he died when I was 20, and we'd mended our ways a little bit, but I'd like to ask him something. I don't think he was ever in a church, Brian.
Your father.
Other than when he got married to my mother. I mean, he wasn't, to my knowledge, in the 20 years he was in my life. I mean, he never went. But, he would use
Well,
those
what was your
things.
grandfather like? Did he go to church at all?
No, he was too busy. We won't go into great details of my life, but it's kind of cool. My grandfather married and had children with 3 sisters, so he was too busy doing that to go to church. But my father would use those sayings because, his mother had been...
Now, is this Sisters of Mercy or really 3
No,
sisters?
these are biological sisters.
Oh, my.
Okay, so my family has cousins and uncles, and I mean, it's weird. But anyway, what I was going to say is he would say something like this. He passed on from one of his mother. No, passed on from his mother. If the devil comes and he talks bad about you, you're doing something right. And that's the way I feel. I mean, if the Trumpers hate me, if the Trumpers don't like me, I think that's a good thing.
Right.
I really do. Now, do I want them to kill me because they do not like me? No. Do I want to be a martyr for the cause? I do not. I will say this. This is to anybody who lived through the 60s as I did and protested as I did. Now, remember, when I first started on the streets in Washington, D.C., I was, 17 years old. And, 17, now I'm, how many years is that now? 51 years later, 5 decades plus later. You're the same person in some ways, but you're different. But I never worried about my safety, right? I just didn't. Now, were there armed Nixon soldiers with guns pointed at us? Yes. Okay. Was I aware of Kent State and 4 people being killed? Yes. But pretty much the confrontation was us against the military, right? And unfortunately, the military had some discipline. And Nixon would have loved to fire on us, but they wouldn't. I mean, the firing came from the National Guard, and that's not disparaging the National Guard.
And let's not forget that was Jim Rhodes' decision. The government.
I understand
right.
that. I understand.
Not such a smart guy there, anyway.
No, but what I'm saying is, but when the first time I was ever scared, Brian, when I went to a rally or a protest at the White House 3 years ago, I guess, right? Yeah, because Trump was there 3 years ago. I wanted my grandchildren to have that experience, right? And so I took them. They're being raised very well by our son and daughter-in-law. She wasn't crazy about me taking them for the danger, but she said okay. And she's, by the way, it's a whole nother story how radical she's become, which is great in terms of radical for the right causes. But I went. And I was worried. And now it's a new worry, right? And I don't want to sound cavalier. I want to live. I want to be the last person alive. I know it's going to be Keith Richard and not me. But me and Keith can sit there. We can play some music. The cockroaches will be running around, whatever. But if I have to die, it would be, I hope I'm doing something right. And if I were killed in a protest, I guess I would feel, that. But I think it is different now. I think it is much different to go out there, and certainly in the pandemic, even more so. But through it all, and I know you've accused me and many others of being the optimist, I see some really positive signs. I really do, Brian. Here's what I see: a revival, a resurgence in social activism that I've not seen since 68 to 74. Okay.
Well, right. I mean, we've seen it anyway with Extinction Rebellion, with the climate thing. We've seen now so it is, there is movement.
Right.
Will we be in time, or will we be able to defeat
that we
Trump?
never know.
Right.
That we never know. I also see, and again, I mentioned earlier in the show, and I really do believe this. I will thank publicly Donald Trump for exposing the enemies to America, whom either I didn't know were there, or I didn't want to know were there, or didn't take it seriously. So I want to thank Donald Trump for that. I also want to thank Donald Trump for this, for proving to me, and I'll try to get the message out as widely and as strongly as I can, that our democracy is not as strong as I thought it was. Far more fragile than I thought. And that's complacency. And I think, honestly, Brian, I think we've been complacent since the 80s, for the most part. Not the environmental cause.
Yeah, because we knew that it was turning in a different direction with Reagan that we weren't really comfortable with.
But I let Clinton get off, in retrospect, easier than I should have, for whatever reasons there are. I think I would be harsher on him now, I hope. But these are good things, okay? Now, you raise the point, too late, we don't know that.
And not only too late, but in the meantime, because we only live so long, and it seems as though, even though there is this movement, Dave, that you've been talking about, and from different angles, it just it's so exhausting, and it seems like we're not being that effective. It's not that efficient,
Okay. You have to. Okay. Wow.
How long did it take to get rid of Stalin? You know what I mean? It just goes on and on and on.
I understand that.
So that's the meantime that you lose.
The struggle between good and evil began at the beginning and will not end till the end.
Can I amend that and say the struggle between stupid and reasonable? I think that's the problem.
Brian. That's good and evil. Okay, same words.
Right.
Same words.
I hate to use the word evil because it has a religious connection.
I understand. It's the same thing. Okay,
right.
Brian. Yeah, you choose the nomenclature you want, which is fine. And I'm not, I mean, really, it's just there's going to be a battle between right and wrong, good and evil.
Well, you would agree with that, and in any case,
now,
we're both
there's
the
also
same.
going to be another battle between authority and anti-authority, and I even take that a step further, between unjust authority and just authority. And there is such a thing. There is such a thing as just authority. When authority is aligned in such a way that the maximum number of people that can benefit, then that is just authority. Trump doesn't have any concept of what authority is. He doesn't have any concept of powers. Thank God he's not Putin. Thank God the country is not North Korea. Trump wouldn't care what you did to him as long as you praised him. He's that needy. And I guess of all the things, maybe that's the one that I smile the most about, is how Trump's a strong man. He says what he means. Yeah, okay.
He said that about Bush.
Well, look, I mean, but, Trump might be, look, I'll use a word he used. Trump likes to grab pussies, right? He said he did, or something about pussies, right? Did Trump say something about that? Something disparaging about a woman's anatomy?
Rancorous language, yes.
Well, I'm going to use his words, not mine. He might be. And Donald, we only live 4.6 miles away. If you want to come over tonight, have a cup of tea with me, we can. If you want to invite me over, I've got my American Horror Story Donald Trump on the front shirt. If you want, I'm not changing, but I'll come over, talk to you. You might be the biggest pussy in America, Donald.
And it's funny, it almost sounds like, and I want to get into any type of sexual innuendo with Trump, but just his patterns of speech about what he does with women, it just makes me think how unattractive that must be to a female, and how could this man have any connection physically with a woman and be successful at it with his absolute obnoxious behavior, forgetting about his physical inadequacies or whatever that is.
I've only talked to one person who had sex with Donald Trump, and she wasn't real forthcoming about that. That would be Stormy Daniels. But here is basically what she said. Not to me, although because I'm not talking to you, you're a reporter, but she said Politics and Prose when I went to see her there. She said I should have a good story by now, right? And she said I don't. Well, I don't think she was lying, or maybe not. Basically, Brian, as I look at the world, power is an aphrodisiac. Okay. And whether Donald Trump has never had the power that he claims, but he's had some power. I mean, there are people still that are impressed. Well, he must be a good businessman. Look how many times the name Trump appears all over the world. Well, I worry about your definition of a good businessman. So when you say, Stormy, Stormy slept with him for this very simple reason, I think. He held out something she really wanted. And that was an appearance on The Apprentice. And look, I'm not going to get into any people's more. In fact, I don't really care what Donald Trump and Stormy Daniels did. I think that's between Stormy, Trump, and Melania. What I do care about is that he issued a payoff to her to keep it quiet, knowing that it might damage his presidency. And I've heard that, you're just attacking him. No, you're missing the point. The point is whether Donald Trump didn't think it was morally wrong. What Donald Trump thought was maybe this will keep me from being president. So it's the payoff. It's always the payoff, the cover up, this kind of thing. Look, I like the dirty stuff as much as anybody else. So I'm going to be fascinated when Michael Cohen's book, it hasn't quite been leaked yet, but there's something in there about golden showers. And of course, we know about the P tape and all that. It would surprise me. I mean, you didn't think tonight, did you, kids, that you're going to get a sex show? Knowing what I know about Donald Trump, it would surprise me if he is the recipient of golden showers. That would shock me because he's germaphobe. That is known. So he wouldn't do that. Would it surprise me that he wanted to see golden showers performed on the bed where Barack Obama and Michelle Obama slept, which is one of the stories out of Russia? That wouldn't surprise me. That would be in keeping with him. It also, as the feeling he has about his feelings about women, he's a misogynist, he's a degrader. He might get off on watching two women pee on each other. I don't know. We may never know. The point is, you asked Brian, why would someone? That's the way I took the question. Why would someone sleep with Trump?
Well, it certainly has to be the money. I can't see any physical connection.
Now, I will say
between
this,
the person and
him, and can forget. Okay, let me do it this way. I don't know if Adolf Hitler looks as evil as I think he does, or is it I know Adolf Hitler. I don't even like somebody who wears one of these little mustaches.
Right, it's a little bit threatening.
So, but it's that because I know. Same thing with Donald Trump. But if you go back and you look at his pictures when he was a young man, not look at his high school pictures, because he wasn't a bad-looking guy.
No, he wasn't.
And he was running around. And I think there's a part of him, they say, arrested adolescent. No, Brian, I think, and again, normally I might even feel empathy for someone like that, but I feel absolutely none for Donald Trump. He had a bad childhood, okay? That can mess you up. But he also had something that
a revolting father.
Was a gift to him. And what that gift was this idea of money, and instead of doing good with it, his narcissistic personality, which he's developed, he never had to answer to anyone. You know, I don't know. Is this the book his niece wrote accurate? I don't know. I'm sure. The book about me, there'd be a lot of facts that might shock people, or I mean, I don't know. My point is though that in essence, I think the only conclusion anyone with any sense can draw is Donald Trump is a bad person. And Donald Trump is such a bad person that he's incapable of being good at anything he does. And I use good in both senses there. He's incapable of being good as in capable of doing the job. I also use good as incapable of doing it the right, the just, the fair way. So, Brian, what else is on your mind or my mind?
Well, that was basically it. I
We
mean,
never get questions. That's gonna be my.
well,
that's
we
gonna
do
be-
get comments, and I think that's just as
That's
important.
great. I'm saying, but
Because-
I want questions. Look, I can want what I want. Okay, when he says bad things about Democrats, calling them radical left too. Okay, Anthony, let me answer that to you. And I understand. Again, I'm going to kind of repeat or take a little different tactic.
He loves Antifa because he needs it to be able to promote his
Let's take both of those.
his platform of hatred.
Radical. Look, what today is considered a radical is actually being almost a moderate centrist. Radicals, depending, who's radical, whatever. Leftist, I take that as a compliment. And one of the greatest words you can tell me is liberal. If you call me a liberal, yeah, I like that. That's what I am. I'm not going to let them turn that around and make that a bad word. Why am I going to let people that I don't even respect have anything to do with how I feel about myself? I'm not going to do that. Antifa. What does Antifa mean? Anti-fascist, right?
Nothing wrong with that.
My father was an anti-fascist. Your father was an anti-fascist. Right. Anyone who fought in World War II was anti-fascist. Now, I understand that Antifa today is different, but I will say this. If it comes down to being with Antifa or the Aryan Nation, if I have two choices, or the KKK, or evangelical Christians, or any Republicans still supporting Donald Trump, or Donald Trump himself, I'm going to take Antifa every single time.
Dave, and I don't mean this as in any kind of pejorative way. I mean, I grew up in a multi-religious family, but you grew up right. in a Christian world, as I kind of did.
Right.
And I've noticed Christians like my mother in a Christian country. Let's just call this country, even though it's really not, but it really is in this.
Let's use the false assumption that so many people make that it is a Christian country. Yes.
And as somebody from the outside, as an atheist, but somebody who understood Christianity at a certain level, and as a Jew, I look at
You're
Christians.
Jewish? You're Jewish?
Yes.
Oh, I can't be on the show with you.
So,
go ahead.
But I'm an atheist Jew, okay? I'm like Trotsky. But here, this is the thing. So it's simply because of the numbers, because there are more Christians than anything or anybody else in the country.
That is true today.
And then I think of my mother's type of Christianity. That's the kind, and again, I'll make an analogy. It's going to sound really stupid, but
why would it be
that? Why? Because you just don't hear things like this. Like they'll say, okay, the Christian that my mother was, they pampered the dog, gave it some ice cream. I know it's not good for the dog. Made sure it was in the air conditioning. Liberal type of thinking. And then you have this, neighbor across the way who's reading the Bible, and they, have their skirt perfectly tucked in. And I always felt that it must be strange for Christians, because it seems like they're the ones who are on this really teetering, I don't want to say a war, but almost like a civil war between Christians in this country, because you have the David Price Christian, even though you're not a Christian per se, but you grew up as one.
Right.
And then you have your friends, and those are two different things. And I would say 30% or so of your posts have comments about what would who would Jesus vote for? You know, are you a real Christian if you like Trump? You seem to go on that theme, and I think that's part of what I'm talking about. Is that you grew up with this Christianity, and there's this Christianity.
Of course. And it's, we're not going to get, I mean, we could get into sex, Presbyterian, but
Right.
no, it's basically this. Okay. If America was a Christian nation, it's never been, okay? Anyone who says that, it's false. It was actually, if anything, the founding fathers, the majority of them were deists. They were believers in science of the time, look almost, today. Ben Franklin, you don't have sex with that many French women and be a Christian. Thomas Jefferson wrote his own Bible based on what he felt was accurate and scientifically reasonable from the Bible. George Washington used the Bible to keep troops in line. I mean, they really weren't. But there's always been hypocrisy in the Christian religion. But I think basically there are two types of Christians. And I think in that sense, I think you're onto something there, Brian. I think there are those Christians who actually lean on the Old Testament, right? And that's and there's Christians.
They're more Jewish than Jews are.
Well, I'm just saying lean,
Because there are a lot of Jews, and again, I'm a person from a multi-religious family.
Right.
There are many Jews who I just see them as liberal Christians. The liberal Christians and most Jews are the same. It's
Right.
the
Well,
conservative
that's
Christians
what
who are
gets
like
to.
the Orthodox Jews. They're fucking nuts.
Well, here's the thing. Okay, so you've got these people, that's an eye for an eye, and God looks down at Sodom and Gomorrah and sets it on fire, and whatever. And then in the New Testament, they're almost, if you believe that new should replace old, if you believe that Jesus was the Son of God, if you believe any of these things, you've got to rely on the New Testament. And the New Testament contradicts a lot of what's in the Old
Absolutely. It's a different philosophy.
Now, I'm not going to get into a debate.
Well, God's different, quite frankly, in both.
With anybody who says the Bible was
books.
inspired by God, I don't care. It was written by men. That's it. I mean, God didn't write it. The only thing they say God might have written was what on the tablet.
And you're not even saying there's a God. You're just saying if there is, it's not this.
I'm just saying that there is a Bible. There is a Bible that many people believe in. There is a Bible that was written by men. And they were written by men, not men and women, okay? They come from an ancient time, a patriarchal society. The Bible is replete, especially the Old Testament, with rules and governance that has nothing to do. Keep that. I want to finish this, and then I want to.
Sure, I'll put it back up.
Keep it up.
We have a few
So,
of them.
Brian, to answer your question, what is this? My mother was, if there ever was a real Christian, I had the benefit of being raised by her. Okay. And you could ask anyone who ever knew her. I mean, she was an amazing woman in that way. My father, as I said, he was a gambler, professional gambler, alcoholic, good alcoholic, if there is such a thing, and there is. And so I had this, like you were raised in these two different religious beliefs, Brian. I was raised in two different raisings. Interesting to watch, the complete absence. But you know what they both were, Brian? They were both very moral people in their own way, right?
And it doesn't take a book to tell you,
Well, my father
you don't
proves that.
kick
okay?
somebody, while they're down.
Now, I was raised, you said you were Christian. Yeah, I was raised in the Methodist Church. I respected my mother. She said the rule was, and we had the same rule for our son, you go until you're 17, and then you make your own choice. I thought that was reasonable, right? And so I did. I'm very grateful for my mother sending me there. I got to find out what's good in the Bible. I got to find out what's wrong in the Bible. I can quote the Bible fairly well if I need to. I'm not going to put myself up against rabbinical scholars or the theologians, but the common person, I feel very comfortable in knowing what's in the Bible.
Well, you certainly wouldn't have needed that. We know that Lenny Bruce's mother was a wonderful woman, but she ran a strip club, and he grew up
I
in a strip.
understand, but Brian,
He became a good person.
You're so anti-Christian. What I'm saying is, I'm not defending the Bible, but what I'm saying is this. Okay? If you do not know the Bible, this is where it does become American. You don't know when Americans are misquoting, abusing the Bible. That's why you need to know the Bible. That's why I'm grateful I got the Bible training. Now, if you want to ask me personally, what turned me off to Christianity? I can tell you immediately what turned me off to Christianity. It's very simple. My father did not go to church and was not a Christian. My mother did go to church and was a Christian. And I learned very early on that to get to heaven, you had to be a Christian. And I loved my father and I loved my mother. And there was nothing in me that can consolidate the two, how I could be happy, content, whatever, if I knew my dad was here or if I just knew my dad wasn't with me and my mother's over there. And I said, no, this is, so it comes back, Brian, to authority a lot. It really does. And one of the reasons that evangelicals don't want their people to be smart, they really don't, is the fact that that gives an enormous amount of power to the preachers. And when you start thinking that they are the anointed of God, and they say, yeah, and God wants me to have sex with your 4 daughters, well, you don't want to go against God, right? So you do it. The bad Christians, and you know, I'll argue this all day. There are good Christians and bad Christians. There really are. And you can see them all over the place. And I can't get into numbers. I don't know, but I know that to be true. John Volselang is a Christian writer. He's great. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, great philosopher, Christian. You know, there are any number, my mother. But the idea of it is there's too many Jerry Falwells Juniors in the world. And there's too many. I posted a thing today, which was just kind of cute. You know, I don't know if you saw it, Brian, on the page. Trump wrapped up, kind of a Last Supper stand, him standing in for Jesus, and all these people around him. And look, I don't really have a problem in what anybody wants to do with their own personal religion. Where I do have a problem is when they want to tell others what to do. Let's take an issue that seems to be massively divisive, and I have no idea why it is: abortion. To me, it's very simple. If you believe abortion is a sin, or you don't believe someone should have an abortion, don't have one. Right? If you believe, as people legitimately can, that it's in the best interest of the child, or in my best interest, selfish as that may be, or in the best interest of whatever, or if you know that your life is threatened or whatever, the child, then have an abortion. Why can't we just agree on that? We can't, because it comes down to authority. And conservatives, one of the things you find with conservatives, much more than liberals can't even agree on the definition of liberal. Conservatives, one of the things they want to conserve is their authority and their ability to tell others what to do. That's
Dave,
it.
let's look at a comment.
Yeah, we got some
here.
questions up there now. Go.
Okay, it says, I've become worried lately that if reelected, Trump will act on the payroll tax pledge and we will see the end of Social Security in this decade. Do you feel, as I do suddenly, that this would be the perfect issue for Biden to stress, being one that could pull votes away from Bastard? I'd hate to...
And I lose it after I hate to.
Okay, well, we got the gist of it.
There's enough here to address.
Right.
A, is that an issue that Biden should address? Yes. The problem becomes for Joe Biden right now is he has 472 trillion issues to address, right?
Right, and he's got to deal with Trump with the accusations. He's got to fight it back each time.
You either believe Trump or you don't. Now, are you, of course, I get Social Security. I get Medicare. So am I worried? Of course I'm worried about that. But I don't believe, unless he can cheat and steal more than I think he can do, I don't think Donald Trump will win the election. Can he? Of course he can. I didn't think he could win the other one. I think there's less chance of him winning this one in retrospect than there was that. Next week, maybe we'll talk about that a little bit too, why I feel that way. But having said that, the person, yes. Now, here's what I think. This is my suggestion to everybody, and this is what I'm doing. Hey, Keith, welcome aboard. Good day, mate. We all have these issues that are very personal to us, right? And here's what I would suggest. Pick one of those issues and write about it. I don't mean write, don't send it to, or talk to your friends about it. Look, I saw a thing the other day. one of the people that I follow. He does. There's some, Brian. Sometimes it's discouraging. We do this show, and we know we're just amateurs, and we're just playing at it. But there's some really good people doing what we do out there.
Well, let's just call it, we are not monetized, which says a lot about us.
Well,
we can be amateurs.
But basically, I mean, there's some really good people doing this.
We're doing this gratis.
And he was just laughing and just having a great time dealing with the villages. I don't know how much. I don't know if everybody out there knows what the villages are. I do. It's the largest senior citizens not complex, but community in Florida. And they're actually having fist fights, these old people, over the issues of Trump and Biden, or Trump. And as my T-shirt, I actually retired. The first one of my Trump T-shirts I retired was anybody but Trump 2020, because now it's, of course, Biden over Trump 2020. The point is, back to that, or any legitimate questions, I'm doing a lot right now personally. My cause, one is, I mean, it's not a cause, just Trump will be better. I mean, Joe Biden will be better because it's not Trump. I'm really looking at violence and gun control. It's something I've been interested in the whole time. And so I try to talk to people about how America will be safer. I try to talk to people about the changes that I see, that I believe that Joe Biden will put in place. And whoever wrote in that question, you should do the same with social. We need to do this. I think sometimes we're all guilty of it. I never place the blame and not point the finger back at me. I think I'm doing that right. We say, you do the work. Joe, you win the election. No, we have to help Joe win the election. And one of the ways, if we feel strongly about issues and Joe is with us, or we think he's with us, make that our issue. We can't deal with 70,000, and neither can he. I mean, there's nothing good about Donald Trump. So, okay, pick what Donald Trump has done that you don't like, or something.
There's nothing good about anybody, maybe with the exception of Romney, in the Republican Party.
Well, I would dispute that, George. I mean, look.
As far as holding political position, George Will doesn't hold political position.
I understand that, but George Bush did. And maybe I'm wrong, but I think if he had it to do over, he might do it differently this time. I really do. I think sometimes, I really get upset. I know we've talked about this on the show before, Brian, and I kind of see this: the child is the father of the man. If you're a psycho killer at 13, but at 13, no. But I think people do change sometimes. I think it's wrong if you don't. So, I mean, like I said, I just simplified in my mind. It works for me. If you're a conservative and you're not backing Donald Trump, you're a fine conservative. If you're a Republican and you're not backing Donald Trump, you're a fine Republican. But you're not a conservative, you're not a Republican, you're not a Christian if you are backing Donald Trump. So, I mean, that works for me. It may not work for everybody, but that works for me.
I agree.
Well, we agree on something. Oh, I see we've got a countdown here.
Right, that's a message.
Did Ron, like I said tonight, Judy so far hasn't come in and said,
No. This is Brian saying, I've got to shut.
Shut up, Brian. I'm talking.
Dave, can we just say this before you go? First of all, you're not Dave. You're the guy who's nothing better to do on Tuesday night.
That's why I want to stay up.
But 3 years ago, Dave had the name Chief Mouth Nose Shut. So you get an idea. Chief Mouth Nose Shut. That was a good one.
Well, did you just think that up on your own?
No. You might remember I called you that 3 years ago on Facebook.
Well, you know what? I'm going to end it this way tonight. When I just talked about, I think this is very important. It's up to us. Joe Biden isn't going to win this election. We're going to win it for him, if he indeed wins, and I think he will. And I'm going to put that challenge out. Look, we've got, you and I have great time talking. It's a lot of fun. But I'm going to post a couple times this week. And if you don't feel comfortable posting the questions, send it to, message me. Send it to me. A couple things you'd like us to address on the show. I mean, Tony talk a lot. Tony, I'm with you. Now, the only person I wish, my name for Brian is Brian, please shut up. You say nothing. But that's okay. Tony, I like you. So you can talk all you
Every
want.
time I make a point, he cuts it off and he wants to finish. You want to finish it for me. Take the credit.
Boring, Brian. I mean, you're a good guy, but my God.
Dallas is going to win the cup. They're too fast for anybody. There you go.
All right. I'm not going to argue with on that.
Okay.
You're one of the communists who like hockey.
Yeah, Dallas. I don't like them, but they're going to
Now you
win.
brought it up. Would you explain to me, Donald Trump now is talking about a certain conference, I'll use his words, a certain conference in college football getting access to testing so they can play? You really think he cares about college football? He cares about the fact that if they don't have college football, there's more votes he's not going to get.
Right.
That's all. So this idea, Brian, what I want to say though to people, seriously, please send us some questions, because we talk, it's one thing to talk about something, it's another to do it. And you and I talk about this is not our program.
Especially so because we're going to have more and more members. We're getting into the point where we make it 1,000, and then you really do generate some interest.
Well, what I meant by that is, I mean, if we're going to be true to our word, and something that Donald Trump is not, and it is important to me, and I know it's important to you, I wouldn't mind having a whole show where the direction just came. These are questions that the people wanted, and and I promise you, we're not going to do what Donald Trump does. We won't lie. There's nothing wrong. I used to tell my students this, and I will tell everybody this. There is nothing wrong with this answer. I do not know. But there is something wrong with then not trying to find out the answer. So if you ask us a question and we do not know, I will say I do not know. Right. But I damn sure will have the answer by the next show.
There. Right. But that is a good idea. Keeping in contact, because again, especially as the membership grows, it's really difficult, Dave, to build a membership. I don't want to keep throwing bouquets at each other and patting ourselves on the back, but it takes a lot to get members.
I don't want you touching me at all. That's not what I signed on for. Even virtually touching me.
No, I get it. And the same back to you. But no, the point is it takes a lot to get a membership. But I think the great thing is, and I said this to Dave a couple of days ago, that these Facebook friends or these members that we have are actually better friends than the friends we thought we had who are Trumpers. Because, a lot of people say, are they truly Facebook friends? Are they really our friends? Well, they may not be truly our face-to-face friends, but we're of like minds, and that means a lot more. So we may be distant, like you may be distant from a dead relative, but it's not the same thing as nothing. You know what I mean? There's something there.
And I agree. And I think the other thing is, even those of us that are outspoken and independent and anti-authoritarian and protest-bound and all those kinds of things, we need support too. And so it really does make me, no, let me rephrase that. It does make me happy, but it really does mean a lot to me for every one of you who comes on that page, because the more names we see, it's not about building an empire. As Brian said, it's not about monetizing, but it just says there's more of us like that. I'm going to end my part with something I know we can't monetize, so I was going to beg for money, so I'm not going to do that. When I was doing research on
Thanks for pizza
on a book, I was researching Woodstock, and this one quote struck with me. I think I actually mentioned it on the show before, but I'll mention it again. A woman who went to Woodstock, a girl then, and she said, what was so wonderful? It was a great con, but I saw there were people like me, and I didn't know, there were any. And I certainly didn't know there were that many. And what I like about this page, and I hope it means the same to everyone else, is there are people like us, and there are many people like us, and a lot of them have landed here.
Right. That's great. And well said, Dave. I want to leave it right there. That's great.
Can I beg for money?
No. Tell your wife for that great sermon there to please serve you some saltines and orange juice. Okay, that's about what you deserve.
I have no orange juice. I do have peach tea, though. I might go have some.
You go for that. And by the way, I'm thirsty now that you just brought it up. We only have 10 seconds left, Dave. Thank you.
You got the closing.
I just want to say thank you, everybody. And watch this show afterwards. If you didn't watch the whole thing, you can watch it anytime. We'll see you. You guys are great. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Dans un lion, il y a une jolie fille. Dans un lion, il y a une jolie fille. Elle est jolie, parfaite en beauté, qu'elle a charmé.